Kevin C. Saulan.
And I'm Jose Lorenzo C. Tuano.
And now we'll be talking about political globalization.
Well, political globalization is just another dimension of globalization. Well, actually, globalization has three major dimensions. First is political globalization, second is economic globalization, and third is cultural globalization.
So what is political globalization? Political globalization refers to the growth of the worldwide political system, both in size and complexity. Also, political globalization is the amount of political cooperation that exists between different countries. One of the best examples showing the occurrence of political globalization are the international organizations. Let's say, for example, the World Bank and the United Nations. Well, actually, United Nations has different sectors with different purpose. One of the sectors of the United Nations is the ICJ, or International Court of Justice. The famous issue showing the purpose of International Court of Justice is when the Petrobranca dispute happened. The International Court of Justice helped the dispute between Malaysia and Singapore in fixing the issue. So in simple terms, the International Court of Justice serves as the peacemaker between nation to nation who are members of the United Nations.
So now let's move on to the different issues under the political globalization. So first is the Jewish survivor here in the Philippines during the Holocaust time. Second is the Scarborough Shoal dispute between China and Philippines. Third is the colonization of Spain to the Philippines. First, let's talk about the Jewish people here in the Philippines during the Holocaust time. And for you to understand what's the story during the Holocaust time, so let's first watch this.
The 1930s were a dark time in Europe. The Nazi Party steadily moving toward the final solution of what they called their Jewish problem. Stormtroopers swept across Germany and Austria, burning synagogues, smashing and looting Jewish businesses, and sending tens of thousands to concentration camps.
I still have nightmares to this day.
Jewish families quit their jobs, packed up their belongings, and fled for their lives. Many, even most, found there was nowhere to go. Nation after nation closed their borders. On the other side of the world, however, one nation opened its doors. More than 1,000 people attended a rally in Manila saying that Hitler had violated the inherent right of every man to freedom, life, and the pursuit of happiness. And to newly elected President Manuel Quezon, it was not a question of whether his country would help, but why other nations did not.
Other countries perhaps did not think it that important. I don't presume to say. But I know that Dad had the moral courage to do it because he believed in the sanctity of human life and the right of people to live life as they believe they should.
President Quezon showed the highest cards when he said simply, "It's the right thing to do." In the end, a deal made over poker, bourbon, and cigars would mean escape for over 1,300 European Jews.
Most Filipinos are familiar with Schindler's List. Very few Filipinos know that Quezon was in his own way a kind of Schindler.
Saying that the Filipinos would be glad that when the time of need came, their country was willing to extend a hand of welcome, Quezon opened his country and even a portion of Marikina, his private estate, to the desperate refugees.
And the second mail, we got an announcement, a letter that said you've been accepted for a position in the Philippines.
We went to the Philippines because it was the only place that gave us a visa.
We were the last train out of Berlin. They closed the border.
We were able to go to the Philippines and escape that.
At that time, we were really free.
Manuel Quezon died before his country was liberated, but the link to Jewish freedom was not forgotten. In 1947, the Philippines was the only country in Asia to vote for the partitioning of Palestine, leading to the creation of the State of Israel. In a memorial park outside Tel Aviv, the Open Doors Monument stands in mute testimony to the Philippines, a nation that stood firm on the basic principle of shared humanity, battling hatred with the simple weapon of an open heart.
As what you've seen in the video, Holocaust means an extermination of an entire race. So during that time, the Jewish people was actually targeted for an extermination. And the leader of that Holocaust is actually Hitler. And you know what? The story of these Jewish people is very sad because they actually knocked the door of the different countries, and only one country really opened the door for them to evacuate and for them to survive from the Holocaust. And that particular country is actually the Philippines, which is our country. And the type of the government that we had that time is Commonwealth. And the president during that time also is Manuel Quezon. And according to the daughter of Manuel Quezon, his father really believed the value of the sanctity of life. And that's the reason why Manuel Quezon granted these 1,200 visas for these Jewish people to evacuate here in the Philippines and for them to survive from that Holocaust. So the second issue talks about the Scarborough Shoal dispute between the Philippines and China. Now the story is all about that Philippines is claiming that this Scarborough Shoal is still part of the West Philippine Sea. And on the other hand, the China also believed that this island is still part of the South China Sea. So that's the reason why there is a conflict between these two countries. And there is a particular organization that really helps the dispute between this country and this organization is the ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. But if we talk about the final decision, there is no final decision that who really owns the Scarborough Shoal, but they are still on the process on knowing who really is the rightful owner of this Scarborough Shoal. And the third issue will help you to understand why there will be a chain reaction that will happen among these three dimensions of globalization. Let's say for example, the colonization of Spain to the Philippines. We the Filipinos were able to acquire some of the traditions and practices of the Spanish people. Like for example, the Cebuano language. There are some words of Cebuano language that are derived from the Spanish language. And there are some traditions also that we were able to acquire from the Spanish people. And we are still practicing those kind of traditions and practices even up to these days. So with that, the political globalization served as a key factor why the economic globalization happened and the cultural globalization happened. So that's the reason why political globalization is really, I think, the very main dimension, or I mean like the very major dimension of globalization. So with that, those three issues, which is the first issue is the Jewish survivors here in the Philippines during the Holocaust time, the Scarborough Shoal or the South China Sea dispute, and the colonization of Spain are the issues that are really under the political globalization that will help you to understand what is really the meaning or what is really the concept of political globalization.
Political globalization, it is very obvious that there are pros and cons. So here are some of the cons of political globalization. The biggest one is losing the authority and coordination of a small country. Second, big countries can shape decisions in supranational organizations. Third, the authority and coordination of a small country. Political globalization leads to international organizations such as United Nations, an organization for economic cooperation and development. These organizations are established for political issues with international cooperation, but otherwise, we could say that big countries can take advantage of this organization. Like Amy Chua stated in the article, the United States of America has become very dominant in terms of political, military, capital, and also culture. Big countries, market-dominant minority, can shape decisions in supranational organization. Because big countries have more power, which cause the state sovereignty is reduced and coordination is difficult and expensive.
Now here are the pros of political globalization. So the first pro is that there is an access to international aid and financial support. Second is, it contributes to world peace, it reduces risk of invasions, more checks on big powers and limitations on nationalism. International organizations are often committed to spread values like freedom and to fight abuses within countries. Third is, smaller countries can work together and gain more influence internationally. Fourth is, governments can learn from each other. And yes, it is true that there will be an access to international aid and financial support. Let's say, for example, the Philippines. Our President Duterte actually asked financial support from China to renovate the Binondo Bridge here in the Philippines. So with that kind of situation, we can already say the importance of being part of an international organization. And second is, it contributes to world peace, it reduces risk of invasions, more checks on big powers and limitations on nationalisms. International organizations are often committed to spread values like freedom and to fight abuses within countries. Let's say for example, if you are a member of United Nations, there is actually an agreement that there will be no invasions that will happen between those or among those countries who are a member of that particular organization, which is the United Nations. And there are some benefits or there are some opportunities that we can get if you are a member of an international organization. So that is the importance. If that is the importance of international organization, that is the importance of being a member of an international organization like a United Nations, ASEAN, and etc. Now third is, smaller countries can work together and gain more influence internationally. And yes, it is true that there are small countries who are working together and for them to really gain influence internationally. Because, you know, when we say small countries, meaning the importance of your country is very less than the other countries who are bigger than your country. So that's the very advantage if you have some of these small countries are really working together for them to really gain more influence internationally. And fourth is, governments can learn from each other. Yes, it is true that governments can learn from each other. It is because political globalization again mainly talks about the integration of a government from other countries or from other nations. And with that, let's say for example the Philippines and China. Let's say for example the Philippines and China. If the Philippines really committed some mistakes or really committed some decision-making issues, the China will really have an information with how to deal with those kind of decision-making for them not to be in the same situation in the Philippines. So again, governments really can learn from each other.
So in simple terms, political globalization has different advantages and disadvantages, and also issues that will help us understand the concept and role of political globalization in our nations.
And also, political globalization is also the very reason why there will be a chain reaction that will happen among those three dimensions of globalization.
Again, I am Gavin C. Saulan,
And I'm Jose Lorenzo C. Tuano,
hoping that you understand the concept of political globalization.
Bye!